You know, and I think that the reality is that when we look at human love and we really at the heart of the gospel is this realization that God was from heaven kept sending prophets, and he kept sending people who were trying to remind humanity of this covenant that he was wanting to make, this relationship, this bond that he was wanting to make, that it goes all the way back to a garden. And for some reason, ever since the fall, like, we just couldn't get it. And so finally he said, okay, fine, I'm going to come down. And not only am I going to repair the rift through the cross, but I'm going to literally leave behind a way of living. Because it wasn't just enough for God to just rescue us from sin. He wanted to actually redeem and restore the way that we live our lives. You know, and we all know that, so that our lives become a very way and an encounter, a living encounter with Jesus here on earth now. We're not just waiting for heaven, but we're living here and now, and in the midst of here and now, we're encountering God in a very tangible way. And gardens are kind of really significant things in the scriptures. You know, the fall happened in a garden, and redemption happened in a garden, and resurrection happened in a garden. Suffering happened in a garden. You know, it was in the first garden that Eve was tempted, and Adam was nowhere to be found to protect her. And yet it was in another garden where a new Adam was found, and he didn't leave, and he didn't abandon, and he stood by, and he laid down his life for her. And the reality is now is that God wants to take our hearts and turn them into a garden. And I was talking with a friend of mine who's another singer-songwriter, and we were talking about how he was telling me this sermon about God. You know, he came down on the seventh day. He came down in the cool of the day to walk alongside Adam and Eve. You know, and just kind of getting blown away by the thought of that God would actually want to come down and walk among us. And that reality is just so true, though, that he still wants to, and he does, particularly, you know, through the sacraments, obviously through prayer and scripture, but in a unique, extremely intimate way. I mean, he literally comes inside of us, you know. I mean, this is why Romans were killing Christians in the first 2 centuries. Because they're like, you people are cannibals. They just couldn't get the idea, they couldn't get the imagery, they couldn't understand that the two shall become one. And that Jesus left heaven and came to earth, and he came for his bride. And that's us. And so this is a song called Garden. It's a new song. And hope you like it. In the cool of the day, you come and meet me. All the blue fades away. The darkness is winking. Your love so strong. I can't recall what was this thing they call the fall, and you are from your face when the light of your love illuminates your ending light, a steady line drawn on my arm and deep in my mind, and you always you never leave. You're making my garden.